deep in the mountains, in a tiny village, there lived this old woman and this old man. And they wanted a child more than anything else in the world. They wanted a child so badly that whenever they encountered someone, they would say, "We want a child, even if he is only as big as your thumb." One day they went to a shrine. They prayed for a child, and believe it or not, a child who really was no bigger than your thumb was born to them, and there he is. They raised their child very, very tenderly. They loved him very dearly, but there were bigger, older boys in that same village who were not the least bit tender. There they are. And they said things whenever they saw little 1 inch like, "Hey there, short guy, when are you gonna grow up, huh?" Well, his mother didn't care for that, but she scolded those boys very gently. She would say things like, "Well, he may be very small, but he's also very strong," which is not necessarily completely true. But nevertheless, little Isun Boshi grew up to become very, very kind and very, very smart. What a beautiful combination, eh? Kind and smart. One day, Isun Boshi went to his parents to say, "Dear mother and father, I have decided that the time has come for your son," that would be me, "to seek his fortune. I've decided that I want to go to the capital city, because I have heard that the famous lord there at the emperor's palace might be willing to let me stay there and help me with my studies." To which his daddy replied, "Well, my boy, how will you get to this capital city? And who will protect you as you go?" "Well, I've thought about that, Father. I've decided that this bowl will be my boat. This chopstick will be my oar. And, Mother, if I may please borrow your sewing needle, it will be my sword." "Oh, Isun Boshi, how clever you are." And so with no further ado, they gave their blessing, and little Isun Boshi set off for the capital city to seek his fortune with his needle sword at his side. The very first things he encountered were these 2 ants of all things. And he asked them, "Could you please tell me how to get to the right river that'll let me go down to the capital city?" And they replied, in unison no less, "No problem. Just take this trail here till you get to Horsetail Trail, turn right, go down to that riverbank, put your bowl or whatever it is into the water, and away you go." Well, he followed their directions. They turned out to be excellent directions. He put his bowl or his boat into the water, and he began to drift. But soon he encountered a huge fish that was splashing dangerously and wildly. And he chided that fish, "Don't splash like that. You might turn me over. And I am, you know, on my way to the capital city to seek my fortune." But the fish kept it up. So he got his chopstick oar and he brandished it right in the face of that fish. And that evidently communicated, because the fish went down to the bottom of the river and didn't reappear until little Isun Boshi was long past. Well, he floated along through days and nights and wind and weather, and he finally reached the capital city. What a big, crowded place. He'd never been in such an environment, and it wasn't comfortable. But as uncomfortable as he was, he remembered his mission to find the emperor's palace. He looked everywhere, searching for big and grand buildings, and finally he spotted it, the grandest of all, with a huge staircase, which, as small as he was, he managed to negotiate all the way up to the front door, where he said, "May I please see the lord of the palace?" And who should walk through that door at that very moment but the lord of the palace himself. He looked all around. "Whoa, who's calling for me? I can't see anybody." And then he replied from way down there, "It's me, I'm down here." Well, the Lord looked down and he said, "My goodness, You're so small. How did you ever get here? Well, Your Highness, I've come here to the capital city to seek my fortune, and I was hoping that you would allow me to stay with you and that you might help me with my studies. Well, the lord of the palace had never been approached in quite that way before, but he thought about it and said, well, you're certainly a brave young man coming all this way, and you seem to be very polite, and you're very cheerful too, aren't you? Yes, you may stay and serve me. Well, as you can imagine, little Isunboshi was elated. And soon the lord of the palace introduced him to his beautiful daughter, the princess. They became good friends right away. They read their favorite stories to each other. They practiced their handwriting together. There he is at his little desk and she at hers. One day, the princess said, say, Isunboshi, let's take a little trip to the Kiyomoshi temple. And he, not knowing what that was about at all, merely said, sure, why not? So she placed him inside this obi sleeve of her kimono. The obi sleeve is part of the kimono. It's very voluminous, so he would be safe. But on the way back from that visit, they were confronted by an enormous ogre. And the princess became very, very frightened. She said, help me, Isunboshi, help me, please. So little Isunboshi withdrew his needle sword, assumed the stance of combat, and he looked up and up and up until he was looking directly into the face of a gigantic ogre. And he said, you better stop frightening the princess, you big fat ogre. You just better stop it. Well, the ogre had never ever heard anything of that nature before, but he didn't know who was saying it. He looked all around. Nobody. He noticed a little dot down on the ground, looking down. When he saw little Isunboshi, but he stopped laughing the moment he realized ogres don't laugh. Ogres are mean. Ogres are gruff. So he gruffed right back up, picked up little Isunboshi just between these two fingers, and said to him, you know what I want to do with you? I'll tell you. I want to put you in my mouth and swallow you down. Which he did. Ow! Ow! Ah! Oh! Ee! Oh! Ow! Ow! Oh no! Oh! He was inside with his needle sword, and the ogre fighter said, I can't take it. No! Ow! No more! I can't. You're too smart. You're too clever. You're too brave. Ah! And then he coughed up little Isunboshi, and he placed him right back down on the ground. The ogre backed off just as cautiously as he could, and he tore off into the mountains, from which he never returned. And the princess said, oh, Isunboshi, well, that was such a clever way to get rid of the ogre. But Isunboshi said, oh, look, the ogre dropped something, Your Highness. She came right over and picked it up, saying, this is a magic mallet. If we shake it, a wish will come true. Do you have a wish, Isunboshi? Well, I have always wished to be a little taller. And she began to shake the magic mallet, chanting, grow taller, Isunboshi, grow taller now! And all of a sudden, Isunboshi became a pretty good-looking guy. He and the princess got married. They went back to his home village to live. He introduced her to his mother and father, and there they lived. happily ever after.
Thank you.